Sarah Chen stared at her reflection in the rearview mirror, trying to fix her slightly messy hair. Her hands trembled as she adjusted her navy blue blazer, the best one she owned, though it was starting to show wear at the elbows. In the back seat, her 6-year-old daughter Emma was sleeping fitfully, her cheeks flushed with fever. Just one more hour, Sarah whispered to herself. We can do this. The morning had started as a disaster. Her phone had buzzed at 6 a.m. with a text from her regular babysitter. Sorry, down with flu. Can't make it today. Sarah had spent the next hour calling everyone she knew, desperate for help. Her mother lived 3 states away, and Emma's father hadn't been in the picture since before their daughter was born. The interview at Meridian Technologies was too important to reschedule. After 6 months of job hunting, the senior analyst position could finally give them the stability they needed. The salary would mean no more counting pennies at the grocery store, no more living in their tiny one-bedroom apartment where Sarah slept on the pull-out couch so Emma could have the bedroom. Sarah grabbed her worn leather portfolio and her daughter's pink backpack filled with quiet activities. Emma, sweetie, we're here, she said softly, reaching back to stroke her daughter's warm forehead. The child stirred, her brown eyes opening slowly. My throat hurts, Mommy, Emma mumbled. I know, baby, just a little longer. Okay, remember what we practiced? You'll sit quietly with your coloring books, and Mommy will have her important meeting. Sarah tried to keep her voice steady, a worry gnawed at her stomach. The Meridian Technologies building loomed before them, all glass and steel reaching into the morning sky. Sarah helped Emma out of the car, holding her small hand as they walked through the automatic doors into the elegant lobby. The security guard gave them a curious look as they signed in. At the reception desk, a woman in a crisp white blouse looked up, her eyes moving from Sarah to Emma with poorly hidden disapproval. You're here for the 9 a.m. interview? Yes, Sarah Chen, I'm meeting with Mr. Brooks. Please have a seat, and try to keep the child quiet. The receptionist's tone made Sarah wince. They settled into the modern leather chairs. Emma curled up against her mother's side, while Sarah pulled out her daughter's favorite coloring book and the quietest crayons she could find. Her own portfolio sat ready on her lap, containing her resume with its MBA from a state university, earned through night classes while working full-time, recommendations from previous employers, and innovative project proposals she'd stayed up late preparing. The lobby slowly filled with other candidates. Sarah noticed their polished appearances and designer briefcases. A young man in an expensive suit glanced at her, then at Emma, before deliberately choosing a seat far away from them. Sarah could hear snippets of conversation from the reception desk, where the receptionist was speaking in low tones with someone on the phone. Yes, Mr. Brooks. The Chen interview. She brought a child. I understand. Yes, sir. Emma started coughing, the sound echoing in the marble lobby. Sarah quickly gave her water from a pink sippy cup, rubbing her back soothingly. She could feel the stares of everyone around them. Through the glass walls of a nearby conference room, Sarah spotted 2 men in suits looking in her direction. One of them, tall with graying temples, shook his head and made a gesture of frustration. Even from a distance, she could read his lips. Unprofessional. Sarah's cheeks burned. She'd faced judgment before as a single mother, but this felt different. This was her chance to prove herself in the corporate world, to show that being a mother didn't make her any less capable. In fact, it had made her more organized, more efficient, and better at handling multiple responsibilities than ever before. Emma's small hand crept into hers. Mommy, are you okay? Sarah squeezed her daughter's hand gently. Yes, sweetheart. Remember what I always tell you. We're strong Chen women. Strong Chen women, Emma repeated quietly, managing a small smile despite her fever. The receptionist's phone buzzed. Ms. Chen, Mr. Brooks will see you now. Her tone suggested she was announcing a dentist appointment rather than a job interview. Sarah stood, smoothing her skirt and gathering her portfolio. Emma, remember what we practiced. Quiet as a mouse with your coloring books. As they walked toward the interview room, Sarah held her head high, even as she heard whispers behind her. She was a mother, yes, but she was also a professional with years of experience and fresh ideas. She just needed one person to look past their prejudices and see her potential. Little did she know, this day would change not just her life, at the entire culture of corporate America. Richard Brooks sat behind his large mahogany desk, not bothering to stand when Sarah entered the room with Emma. His eyes narrowed at the sight of the child, and he made a show of checking his expensive watch. The morning sunlight streaming through his corner office windows did nothing to warm his cold expression. "Ms. Chen, I wasn't aware this would be a group interview." His voice dripped with sarcasm as he glanced at Emma, who was quietly settling into a chair in the corner with her coloring book. "I apologize for bringing my daughter, Mr. Brooks. My babysitter called in sick this morning, and I didn't want to miss this opportunity." Sarah's voice remained steady as she took her seat, placing her portfolio on the desk between them. "Let's make this quick then." He barely glanced at her resume before pushing it aside. "I see you have an MBA, but there's a 2-year gap in your employment history. Care to explain?" Sarah sat up straighter. "Yes, during that time, I was working part-time as a freelance consultant while completing my MBA in the evenings. I managed several successful projects. While being a single mother?" Brooks interrupted, his tone making the words sound like an accusation. "How exactly do you plan to handle the demands of a senior analyst position? We'd often work late hours here at Meridian." "I have excellent time management skills," Sarah replied, trying to keep her voice professional despite the growing knot in her stomach. "In fact, during my last position, I increased department efficiency by 30% by implementing new project management software." A cough from Emma's direction made Brooks frown. "Ms. Chen, let me be direct. Meridian Technologies is a Fortune 500 company. We need employees who can give 100% of their attention to their work, not people with complicated personal situations." Sarah's cheeks burned, but she pressed on. "If you look at my portfolio, you'll see my proposal for streamlining your current data analysis system. I've researched Meridian's processes and identified several areas where—" "Tell me." Brooks cut her off again, leaning back in his leather chair. "What happens when your child is sick? When school is closed? When you need to leave early for parent-teacher conferences?" He didn't wait for her answer. "We've had experience with working mothers before. It rarely ends well." Emma coughed again, harder this time. Sarah half turned in her chair, worried about her daughter, but trying to maintain eye contact with Brooks. "I see where your priorities lie," Brooks said with a dismissive wave. "And they're not with professional commitments. Mr. Brooks, being a mother has actually enhanced my professional capabilities. I'm more efficient, better at multitasking, and—" "Ms. Chen," he stood up abruptly, "let's not waste each other's time. Meridian needs dedicated professionals who can separate their personal lives from their work. Someone who shows up to an interview with a sick child clearly doesn't understand professional boundaries." Emma started coughing again, this time more severely. Sarah rushed to her daughter's side, giving her water from the sippy cup. Brooks sighed loudly. "I think we're done here. Janet will show you out." He pressed a button on his desk phone. "Janet, please escort Ms. Chen and her guest from my office." Sarah gathered her things with trembling hands, helping Emma pack up her coloring books. The portfolio she'd spent weeks preparing sat untouched on Brooks's desk. He didn't even offer to return it to her. As they walked toward the door, Brooks added, "For future reference, Ms. Chen, professional interviews are not bring your child to work days. Perhaps consider a different career path, something more suitable for your situation." The receptionist, Janet, was already waiting outside. She led them through the lobby, past other candidates who watched with a mixture of pity and second-hand embarrassment. Sarah could hear whispers and see people shaking their heads. "Mommy?" Emma's small voice quivered as they reached the elevator. "Did you get the job?" Sarah waited until they were alone in the elevator before kneeling down to her daughter's level. "No, sweetie, I didn't. But you know what? They just weren't the right fit for us." "Because I was coughing." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "No, baby." Sarah hugged her daughter tight, ignoring the tears threatening to spill from her own eyes. "Because some people can't see past their own prejudices to recognize true potential." As they walked through the parking lot, Sarah's humiliation slowly turned to anger. She helped Emma into her car seat, then sat behind the wheel, gripping it until her knuckles turned white. The spring sunshine felt too bright, too cheerful for such a dark moment. But something was changing inside Sarah Chen. Something was hardening, like steel being forged in fire. This humiliation wouldn't break her, it would become the foundation of something greater than Richard Brooks could ever imagine. She started the car, catching Emma's eyes in the rearview mirror. How about we stop for ice cream, sweetie? I think we both deserve a treat today. Even though I'm sick? Sometimes, the best medicine is knowing that tomorrow will be better than today. Sarah drove home from Meridian Technologies with tear-stained cheeks, but her mind was racing with thoughts. Emma had fallen asleep in the back seat, the medicine finally bringing down her fever. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the city streets as Sarah took the longer route home, needing time to think. They stopped at their favorite ice cream shop, Sweet Dreams, where old Mr. Wilson always gave Emma an extra scoop. Today, seeing Sarah's red eyes, he added rainbow sprinkles without charging extra. Rough day? He asked kindly, while Emma sat at their usual corner table, slowly enjoying her strawberry ice cream. Job interview, Sarah said, stirring her untouched vanilla cone. It didn't go well. Mr. Wilson leaned over the counter. You know, my daughter started her own business after getting turned down from 10 different jobs. Sometimes the worst days lead us to the best decisions. His words stuck in Sarah's mind as they drove the rest of the way home. Their small apartment felt even smaller today, but Sarah noticed something different as she tucked Emma into bed. The wall above her daughter's bed was covered with drawings, pictures of computers, robots, and what Emma called business ladies wearing suits and carrying briefcases. Mommy? Emma called as Sarah turned to leave. Are you sad about today? Sarah sat on the edge of the bed. No, sweetheart. I'm actually thinking about something important. Remember how you always say you want to build robots when you grow up? Emma nodded sleepily. Well, maybe Mommy needs to build something too. Something better than what's out there right now. After Emma fell asleep, Sarah sat at their small kitchen table, surrounded by bills and her old laptop. She opened a fresh document and typed, Tech Bridge Solutions, Business Plan. Her hands moved faster as ideas flowed. All the problems she'd seen in traditional tech companies, all the talented parents she knew who couldn't find flexible work, all the innovative solutions she'd thought of but had never been given the chance to implement. Everything came pouring out. At midnight, her phone buzzed. It was Lisa, another single mom from Emma's school. I heard about the interview, Lisa said. Are you okay? I'm better than okay, Sarah replied, surprising herself with the strength in her voice. I'm starting my own company. There was a pause on the other end. You're what? A tech consultancy, but different from the others. We'll focus on small businesses, the ones big companies like Meridian ignore. And we'll hire talented people who need flexible schedules, parents, caregivers, anyone who's been overlooked because of their personal situations. Sarah, that's amazing. But how will you manage it? Starting a business isn't easy. Sarah looked at her laptop screen, now filled with pages of ideas. I'll keep my remote analyst job during the day. Nights will be for building this dream. I already have some savings, and I know so many brilliant people who've been pushed aside by traditional companies. She walked to her window, looking out at the city lights. Remember Maria from the park? She's a brilliant coder but can't find work because she needs to care for her elderly mother. And Jack from Emma's class. His wife is fighting cancer, but he's an amazing project manager who just needs flexible hours. You're really serious about this, Lisa said, sounding impressed. Today showed me something important, Sarah replied, her voice growing stronger. The problem isn't that people like us can't handle the work. The problem is that companies aren't built to recognize and support different kinds of talent. After hanging up, Sarah worked until 3 a.m. She researched small business loans, drafted a mission statement, and started listing potential clients. Her eyes were heavy, but her spirit felt lighter than it had in months. Emma's cough echoed from the bedroom, and Sarah went to check on her. Standing in the doorway, watching her daughter sleep peacefully, she felt a new sense of purpose. We're going to build something amazing, she whispered, something that will change everything. Before going to bed, Sarah looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. The woman staring back wasn't the same one who had walked into Meridian Technologies that morning. That woman had been looking for someone to give her a chance. This woman was going to create her own chances, not just for herself, but for everyone who had ever been told they didn't fit into the corporate world. She took out her phone and set a new alarm. 5 a.m. Tomorrow would be day one of building her dream, And somewhere across the city, in his expensive office, Richard Brooks had no idea that his rejection had just sparked the beginning of a revolution in the tech industry. Sarah smiled at her reflection. Sometimes humiliation wasn't an end. It was just the beginning of something much bigger than anyone could imagine. 3 months after the disastrous Meridian interview, Sarah's living room had transformed into a makeshift office. Her old coffee table was covered with business plans, and sticky notes decorated the walls. Emma had drawn a colorful sign reading TechBridge Solutions that hung proudly above their small television. Sarah's daily routine had become a carefully orchestrated dance. She woke up at 5 a.m. to work on TechBridge before Emma got up for school. From 9 to 3, she worked her remote analyst job, taking lunch breaks to answer emails from potential clients. Afternoons were for Emma: homework, dinner, and quality time. Once Emma was asleep, Sarah returned to building her dream until midnight. "Mommy, look," Emma called out one evening, holding up her math homework. "I got all A's this week." Sarah hugged her daughter tight. "That's wonderful, sweetie. And you know what? Mommy got some good news too." She opened her laptop to show Emma an email. Their first major client, a local restaurant chain, had agreed to let TechBridge handle their technology systems. The contract wasn't huge, but it was a start. "Does this mean we can get a bigger apartment?" Emma asked hopefully. "Not yet, honey, but soon." Sarah ruffled her daughter's hair. "First, we need to hire some helpers." The next day, Sarah met Maria Rodriguez at the local coffee shop. Maria had been a senior programmer at a big tech firm until her mother's illness forced her to quit. "I can work from home?" Maria asked, reviewing the contract Sarah had prepared. "And set my own hours as long as deadlines are met." Sarah nodded. "We'll have weekly video meetings to stay connected, but you can work when it works best for you and your mother." Maria's eyes filled with tears. "Other companies, they acted like caring for my mother made me less valuable, like I had to choose between my career and my family." "That's exactly what TechBridge wants to change," Sarah replied, sliding Maria's contract across the table. "Welcome to the team." By month 6, TechBridge had 5 employees, all working remotely. Jack Peterson, the project manager whose wife was fighting cancer, joined next. Then came Diane Wam, a brilliant systems analyst who needed flexible hours to care for her autistic son. Each new hire brought not just their skills, but their determination to prove that personal responsibilities didn't diminish professional excellence. Sarah converted her tiny bedroom into a proper home office, now sleeping on the pull-out couch herself. The wall of sticky notes became a professional project management system. Emma's colorful sign was joined by their first framed client testimonial. One evening, while Sarah was cooking dinner, her phone rang. It was Lisa. "Sarah, you need to see this," Lisa said excitedly. "Check your email. Now." Sarah opened her laptop while stirring spaghetti. Her jaw dropped. A major business magazine had published an article about innovative startups. TechBridge Solutions was mentioned as a revolutionary new model for tech companies. "They're calling you a pioneer," Lisa said. The comment section is full of people asking how to apply for jobs. The spaghetti started to boil over, but Sarah couldn't move. The article praised TechBridge's flexible work model and highlighted their growing success with small business clients. It even mentioned their perfect project completion rate. "Mommy, the pasta," Emma called out, rushing to turn down the stove. Sarah snapped back to reality. "Sorry, sweetie. Mommy just got some amazing news." That night, after Emma was asleep, Sarah sat on their small balcony with a cup of tea. Her phone kept buzzing with congratulatory messages and job inquiries. TechBridge's email inbox was flooding with potential clients and resumes. She thought about the day she walked out of Meridian Technologies in tears. How different everything looked now, just 9 months later. Her company wasn't just surviving, it was becoming a model for change. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was Maria. "Just saw the article. Thank you for giving people like us a chance." Sarah smiled, looking up at the city lights. TechBridge was still small compared to giants like Meridian. They were growing. More importantly, they were proving that success didn't require sacrificing humanity. Emma's drawing of the TechBridge logo caught her eye through the window. The colors were bright against the night sky, like a promise of better things to come. "We're doing it, baby girl," Sarah whispered. We're really doing it. Her laptop chimed with another email. Another client, another opportunity, another step toward changing the world of work. Sarah took a deep breath of the night air and went back inside. Tomorrow would be another busy day, but now every busy day brought them closer to their dreams. 2 years had passed since TechBridge Solutions began in Sarah's tiny apartment. Now, she stood in front of their new office building, holding Emma's hand. The glass doors displayed their company logo, a bridge made of binary code, still inspired by Emma's original crayon drawing. "It's so big, Mommy," Emma exclaimed, now 8 years old and wearing a t-shirt that read, "Future Tech Boss." Sarah smiled, remembering their journey. TechBridge had grown from 5 employees to 50, and their client list had expanded beyond small businesses to include medium-sized companies across the country. The flexible work model that others had dismissed as impractical had become their greatest strength. Inside the office, the morning buzz was different from traditional corporate environments. Some employees worked from their desks, while others connected remotely. A corner of the main floor had been converted into a children's area, where employees' kids could stay when needed. It was everything Sarah had dreamed of, but better. "Mrs. Peterson needs to leave early for her husband's chemotherapy," Maria reported, approaching Sarah with a tablet. "But she's already finished the Johnson project, 2 days ahead of schedule." Sarah nodded, pride filling her chest. "That's why our model works. When you trust people and give them flexibility, they give you their best." The morning news played quietly on an office TV. A business reporter was discussing the latest trends in tech companies. And TechBridge Solutions continues to disrupt the industry with their revolutionary workplace policies. Their project completion rates are among the highest in the sector, and their employee retention rate is unprecedented. Sarah's phone buzzed with a message from her assistant. "Meridian Technologies lost another major client to us. Third one this month." She was reviewing the message when Lisa, now TechBridge's HR director, rushed in. "Sarah, you need to see this. Forbes just released their 40 under 40 list. You're on it." The office erupted in cheers. Emma bounced excitedly, hugging her mother's legs. The magazine article praised Sarah's innovative approach and highlighted how TechBridge was changing corporate culture across America. Later that afternoon, Sarah led a client meeting in their state-of-the-art conference room. The potential client, a regional bank, was impressed by their presentation. "Your results are remarkable," the bank's CEO said, "but what really interests me is your company culture. How do you maintain such high standards with such flexible policies?" Sarah gestured to the wall of employee photos. "Every person here has a story." Maria there juggled coding with caring for her sick mother. Jack managed projects while supporting his wife through cancer treatment. They're not just employees, they're proof that personal challenges don't diminish professional excellence. The contract was signed that day, becoming TechBridge's largest deal yet. That evening, Sarah received another significant email. A major tech conference wanted her to be their keynote speaker. The topic: revolutionizing workplace culture, the TechBridge model. Emma found her mother staring at the email. "Are you okay, Mommy?" "Yes, sweetheart. Just thinking about how far we've come." Sarah pulled her daughter close. "Remember that day at Meridian, when they thought having you with me made me less capable?" Emma nodded. "And now we have a playground at work." The next morning, Sarah called a company-wide meeting. Some attended in person, others joined virtually, the TechBridge way. 3 years ago, I was told that being a mother made me unsuitable for the corporate world," she began. "Today, we're proving that embracing people's whole lives, their responsibilities, their challenges, their dreams, creates stronger companies and better results." The screen showed employees nodding, many with their own children visible in the background. Some had elderly parents sitting nearby, others were joining from hospital rooms where they cared for loved ones. "Our success isn't just about profits or client lists," Sarah continued. "It's about showing the world a better way to work, and we're just getting started." After the meeting, Sarah received news that made her smile. Meridian Technologies stock had dropped again. Their rigid policies and traditional approach were losing them both talent and clients in a world that was changing. Standing by her office window, Sarah watched Emma doing homework in the children's area, surrounded by other employees' kids. The same scene was playing out in hundreds of homes connected to TechBridge virtually. Ms. Chen, Her assistant called. Time magazine is on the phone. They want to feature TechBridge in their company's Changing the World issue. Sarah looked at Emma once more, then turned to take the call. The revolution they'd started was just beginning, and the best was yet to come. 5 years after that humiliating interview, Meridian Technologies was facing its biggest crisis. The company's stock had fallen 60% in the past year. Their outdated policies and rigid work culture had caused them to lose both talented employees and major clients. Richard Brooks sat in his office, now downgraded from the corner suite to a smaller space on the third floor. He stared at the morning newspaper headline: Meridian Technologies struggles while TechBridge Solutions soars. The board of directors had called an emergency meeting. In a large conference room, nervous executives gathered around the polished table. Janet, the former receptionist who was now Brooks's assistant, served coffee with shaking hands. "Our fourth quarter results are disastrous," announced Thomas Wilson, the board chairman. "We've lost 30% of our market share. Our best employees are leaving for companies with more flexible policies. And our biggest competitor now is a company that didn't even exist 5 years ago." The presentation screen showed TechBridge Solutions' latest success story. Brooks felt his stomach turn as he recognized Sarah Chen's photo, showing her accepting a Business Leader of the Year award. "We need new leadership," Wilson continued. "Someone who understands modern workplace culture. Someone who can transform Meridian before it's too late." In the back of the room, a young analyst raised her hand. "Sir, have you seen TechBridge's latest innovation? They've created a parent-friendly office space with childcare facilities. Their employees can work flexible hours, and their productivity rates are 40% higher than ours." Brooks shifted uncomfortably in his chair, remembering how he had dismissed Sarah Chen for bringing her sick daughter to an interview. The board meeting continued for hours. Lists of potential CEO candidates were discussed. Every successful name seemed to follow TechBridge's model of flexible work and inclusive policies. Later that afternoon, Brooks's phone rang. It was his daughter, Kate. "Dad, I got a job offer," she said excitedly. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. Which company?" There was a pause. TechBridge Solutions. Brooks nearly dropped his phone. "Kate, you can't be serious. They're our competitor." "Dad, they're offering everything Meridian won't. I can work from home 3 days a week. They have daycare for Tommy, and the salary is better than what I make at Meridian." Brooks realized with a shock that his own daughter, a talented software engineer, was leaving Meridian for Sarah Chen's company. The next morning, Wilson called another meeting. "We found our candidate for CEO," he announced. "Someone with a proven track record of innovation and success. Someone who has revolutionized the tech industry's approach to work culture." The screen lit up with Sarah Chen's profile. Brooks felt the blood drain from his face. "She built a billion-dollar company from scratch in 5 years," Wilson continued. "Her employee satisfaction rates are the highest in the industry. And most importantly, she understands where the future of work is heading." One board member raised his hand. "But isn't she the one running TechBridge? Why would she leave her own company to join us?" Wilson smiled. "We're not asking her to leave TechBridge. We're proposing a merger. Meridian needs her vision, her leadership, and her understanding of modern workplace culture." The room erupted in discussion. Brooks sat silently, remembering his harsh words to Sarah 5 years ago. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of irony. That evening, as Brooks packed up his office, he found an old portfolio in his bottom drawer. It was Sarah's, from that interview day. He had never even opened it. Inside, he found detailed proposals for modernizing workplace policies, innovative technical solutions, and a vision for the future of corporate culture. Everything she had proposed then, she had now built into a billion-dollar success story. His phone buzzed with a company-wide email. "Please welcome our potential new CEO, Sarah Chen, who will be visiting our offices next week to discuss Meridian's future direction." Brooks sat heavily in his chair, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there was the woman he had humiliated, the talent he had dismissed, now returning as his potential boss. The final irony: his daughter Kate would be starting her new job at TechBridge next month, with flexible hours and on-site childcare for his grandson. Everything he had once claimed would make a company weak. Sometimes, Brooks realized, The biggest failures come from being too blind to see the future when it walks right into your office. Sarah Chen stood in front of Meridian Technologies building, feeling a strange mix of emotions. 5 years ago, she had walked out of these same doors in tears. Now, she was returning as their potential CEO. Ready, Mom? Emma, now 11 and dressed in a smart blue dress, asked. Sarah had specifically brought her daughter along for this moment. Ready as I'll ever be, sweetheart. Sarah straightened her designer suit, a far cry from the worn blazer she worn to her interview years ago. The reception area fell silent as they entered. Janet, the same receptionist from 5 years ago, stared open-mouthed at them. Ms. Chen, the board is waiting for you in the main conference room. Thank you, Janet. Sarah smiled warmly. And this time, my daughter is actually invited to be here. The conference room was packed with board members and senior executives. Thomas Wilson, the board chairman, stepped forward to greet them. Ms. Chen, welcome to Meridian. Or should I say, welcome back? Sarah noticed Richard Brooks sitting in the corner, looking smaller somehow in his regular chair instead of behind his old power desk. He couldn't meet her eyes. Before we begin, Sarah said, standing at the front of the room, I'd like my daughter Emma to share something with you all. She nodded encouragingly at Emma, who pulled out a folder from her backpack. 5 years ago, Emma began clearly, I was sick, and my mom had to bring me to a job interview here. She was told that being my mom made her less valuable as a professional. She opened the folder, revealing newspaper clippings and magazine covers about TechBridge's success. But look what my mom built instead. The room was silent. Several board members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Thank you, Emma, Sarah said, squeezing her daughter's hand. Then she turned to the board. Let's talk about Meridian's future. She clicked to her first slide. Your company is losing market share not because your technology is bad, but because your culture is outdated. Last year, you lost 50 top employees to companies with flexible work policies. 30 of them came to TechBridge. Another click showed Meridian's dropping stock prices alongside TechBridge's rising ones. But here's the good news, Sarah continued. It's not too late to change. My proposal isn't just about a merger between our companies. It's about transforming how Meridian sees its most valuable asset, its people. She outlined her vision: flexible work hours, on-site childcare, remote work options, and support for employees with family responsibilities. The same ideas that had been in her portfolio 5 years ago, the one Brooks had never opened. Ms. Chen, one board member spoke up. These changes sound expensive. How can we be sure they'll work? Sarah smiled. Kate Brooks, would you like to address that? Richard Brooks's daughter stood up from where she'd been sitting quietly. I recently left Meridian for TechBridge. In my first month there, I completed 30% more projects than I did here. Why? Because I'm not constantly stressed about childcare or rushing home for rigid hours. I can work when I'm most productive. Brooks finally looked up, seeing his daughter standing confidently beside the woman he had once dismissed. The choice is yours, Sarah concluded. Meridian can continue losing talent and market share, or it can join us in building the future of work. A future where being a parent or caregiver isn't a career liability, but a valuable life experience that makes better leaders. Wilson stood up. The board needs to discuss your proposal, Ms. Chen, but first, I believe someone owes you an apology. All eyes turned to Brooks. He slowly stood, his face red. Ms. Chen. Sarah. I was wrong. Not just about you, but about everything. I didn't see that the world was changing. I'm sorry. Sarah nodded graciously. Mr. Brooks, your daughter is one of our most valuable new employees. She proves that talent runs in families when it's given the right environment to flourish. As they left the conference room, Emma whispered, Did we win, Mom? Sarah looked around at the office that had once projected her. Through the windows, she could see her own company's building in the distance, its innovative policies already changing the industry. You know what, Emma? Everyone wins when companies learn to value all of their employees' lives. The board would vote tomorrow, but Sarah already knew the outcome. The future of work wasn't just about technology, it was about humanity, and she was going to lead that change, one company at a time. 1 year after the merger between TechBridge Solutions and Meridian Technologies, the newly formed TechBridge Meridian stood as the most innovative tech company in the country. Sarah Chen walked through the transformed headquarters, remembering how different everything had been just 6 years ago. The old Meridian lobby, where she had once sat nervously with a sick Emma, now featured a state-of-the-art childcare center named Emma's Place. Through its glass walls, she could see kids playing while their parents worked nearby. Her daughter, now 12, often volunteered there after school, teaching younger children basic coding on child-friendly computers. "Mom," Emma called out, running from the childcare center. "Guess what? Tommy Brooks just wrote his first line of code." Sarah smiled, watching Richard Brooks's grandson toddle toward his mother, Kate, who was working at one of the lobby's flexible workstations. The sight would have been unimaginable in the old Meridian. Miss Chen, her assistant, approached. "Time magazine is here for the Company of the Year photo shoot." The photographer wanted to capture the essence of the new workplace culture. Sarah suggested taking the photo in the main work area, where the changes were most visible. Employees worked in comfortable spaces designed for both collaboration and focus. Some attended meetings virtually from home, their faces appearing on mobile screens carried by robots that moved around the office. Richard Brooks, now heading the company's mentorship program, was teaching a group of young parents how to balance work and family life. A stunning transformation from his former views. He caught Sarah's eye and nodded respectfully. "Sarah," he called out after the photo shoot, "my daughter Kate just got promoted to project manager." "I know," Sarah replied warmly. "She earned it. Her team has the highest satisfaction rates in the company." "I was wrong about so many things," Brooks said quietly. "Thank you for showing me a better way." The afternoon board meeting showcased the company's latest achievements. Employee retention had reached 98%. Project completion rates were up 40%. The stock price had doubled since the merger. "But our real success story," Sarah told the board, "is changing lives." She shared letters from employees. A single father who could now attend his kids' school events, a woman caring for her elderly parents while advancing her career, a young mother who had returned to work 2 weeks after giving birth, working from home with full support. After the meeting, Sarah visited the company's new training center. Young professionals from around the world came to learn the TechBridge Meridian way of working. Today's class included managers from traditional companies, eager to understand how flexibility could improve productivity. The secret, Sarah told them, is treating employees like whole people, not just workers. When you support their personal lives, they give their best professional efforts. Emma burst into the training room, excitement on her face. "Mom, my coding club kids just finished their first app." Sarah excused herself and followed Emma to the children's tech lab she had created. 20 kids, including Tommy Brooks, proudly demonstrated their simple but working application, a homework planning tool. "See, Mrs. Chen," Tommy said, showing her the app on his tablet. "It helps kids organize their homework while their parents are working." Sarah felt tears in her eyes, remembering how she used to help Emma with homework late at night after long workdays. Now, children at TechBridge Meridian could be near their parents while both groups pursued their goals. That evening, Sarah found an old photo in her desk, Emma sleeping in the Meridian lobby during that fateful interview. She placed it next to a recent magazine cover showing their success story. "Ready to go home, Mom?" Emma asked, appearing at her office door. "Dad's making dinner tonight." Sarah had met Emma's stepfather at a small business conference 2 years ago. He understood and supported their mission of changing workplace culture. Their family was proof that personal happiness and professional success could go hand in hand. As they walked through the building, Sarah saw parents picking up their kids from Emma's Place, remote workers saying goodbye to their robot avatars, and teams collaborating across time zones on flexible schedules. "Mom," Emma said thoughtfully, "remember when that mean man said you couldn't be a good worker because you had me?" Sarah hugged her daughter close. "Yes, and look what we proved instead. We showed that being a parent doesn't make you less valuable at work. It makes you more innovative, more compassionate, and more determined to create positive change." They stepped out into the evening light, mother and daughter, looking at the building where their journey had begun 6 years ago. The sign above the door now read, "TechBridge Meridian, where life and work thrive together." Sometimes, Sarah thought, the best revenge isn't just success, it's changing the world for the better.